All right. So the first beat is going to be what the kick drum will be doing. I'm going to write the letter B, which stands for bass. Now, you could play with your fist, or you could play it with your palm. Sound-wise, I want a little more resonance, okay? This is like the foundation if you were building a home, where the other stuff is like the studs holding the house up. The foundation ties everything together, okay? The vocals, the other music. We want to build that foundation, okay? Then I'm playing let's say a snare on 2 and 4, okay? So that's what's happening. Boom, ka, ka, boom, ka, ka, and I'm swinging it a little bit, meaning I'm adding space between the notes. Instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Fast. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. All right, there's a lot of space in there, okay? So what I might do as well is now I'm going to add, if we were going to the house building analogy, I'm gonna add the aesthetic and the accessories, the look. Is it a craftsman home? Is it a Mediterranean or Spanish style villa? What type of house is it? This changes the feel of the song. So I might add, let's say, 2 open notes. I put them up here, or I can go slap, open, open. Okay? Now, let me show you this. You have 4 beats, but you also have spaces in between these notes. Those are the upbeats, okay? But since we're gonna be playing 1/8 notes here. These are quarter notes, but now I've added two notes after the slap. So it's gonna be boom, to ka, boom, boom, okay? So whether they're 1/8 notes or whether they're 16th notes, they're after that snare, okay? Let's hear how it sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it fast. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it. That's very simple, but that now sets up the rest of the song. Now, what this is basically on the and of 4, meaning anytime if I said the and of 3, that's the space after the 3rd beat. And of 2, space after the 2nd beat. And of 1, space after the 1st beat. Now, what I'm also doing and have developed the ability is to count while I'm playing and singing. So there are 2 different notes. Doom, doom. One's faster, one's slower. One's quicker and slower. Regardless, there's 2 open notes after this snare. Doom, 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 doom. So I could add 1. Bass, slap. Where I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Now I can put 1 here and 1 here. I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go. You see what I did there? Changed the whole feel of the song just by adding different notes. Now I can also use some heel toe or palm finger technique as the hi-hat would be in the drum. So, right? I added an extra slap. 3, 4. That sounds and feels a lot different than just this. Watch. What am I doing? Finger touches. Or dot, 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 dot. I can add 8th note touches. or I could add 16th note touches. That is the pulse. I'm adding a pulse there. And man, that changes everything. It fills the space. It adds a dynamic that wasn't there before, a level of excitement that wasn't there before. Just little ghost notes, touches in between. And I've talked about heel toe exercises. Those are very important to develop that to the point where you can do that without even thinking. That's why these exercises are also important in that technique. So if you're only playing hand to hand, that's great, meaning left, right, open, open. But if you're not doing any heel toe stuff, you're limiting yourself to some extra notes that you can add in between. Sometimes on a cajon, it might be a little bit easier because we're just sitting there resting and doing a lot of finger stuff. Well, don't be afraid to do that with the congas as well. All right? So these are a couple ways that I might develop a rhythm on congas, just 2 congas for this song, okay? Right off the top of my head, there's many different variations, but the main thing here is that the snare, the 2 and 4, help drive and punctuate the song. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna, but it sounds really empty and strange with just that, right? So the kick drum or the bass is like glue. It anchors the song. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Watch what one touch added to that does. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go. You hear that? Just one, maybe I might have added another one. It did add a little bit more. So you notice that kick added an extra dynamic there. So this idea can be added to just about any song. And this is kind of my theory and my way of, I don't know, just being able to compose a contemporary rhythm on congas. Now, it doesn't have to be on 2 and 4. It just so happened that I'm doing that. But sometimes I take the slap and I really like to add it on the and of 2. 1, 2. Or on the and of 1. But often, even if I do that, I still use the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the snare is on that last beat. Everywhere I go, ka. Because that kind of puts a period on the sentence for me. That's what it's kind of doing. So even if I move the snare around in here, that kind of changes the accent, right? Like if I say, I'm going to the grocery store, or I'm going to the grocery store, okay? That changes what it is that you're trying, what are you emphasizing? So it changes the feel. So I can change that around here. But for me, when I add this snare back over here, it kind of adds the period. It stops that and says, that's the phrase that I wanted, okay? And if I were to give you a practical application of what I mean by that, it would be like, let's say, I'm gonna let it shine everywhere I go. Now you notice I was adding the snare on 2, but I was adding another snare right after the bass, or right after the first slap. But on all of them, I still added a snare, a slap on the 4th beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what does it sound like if I don't add this? Watch what happens here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It feels to me, this is just, all of this is subjective, okay? But it feels to me like I left it open. I left it open for interpretation. I left the sentence open, like, hey, I'm going to the grocery store. I'm wanting feedback, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to the grocery store. I'm now making a statement regardless of what you're going to say. It's a rhetorical statement, or like a rhetorical question Whereas before, I'm going to the grocery store, implies something there, right? It's kind of like my body language and the way I said it implies, hey, are you going to come with me? I'm leaving now. Or, you know, maybe we had a conversation before and that's supposed to mean something, that I'm going to the grocery store. Okay? So all of that can be added on there. So it really depends on what is the feel that you're going for. The next thing that I will add is that it's important that no matter what you're going to do here, that you're able to have a conversation while playing it. Memorization, understanding. So you can focus on your lyrics. Okay? So for me, I'm going to default to stuff that's in William Johnson's vocabulary because I really don't want to have to think about what's going on here. Okay? So the more rhythms that you have in your data bank, in your library, in your vocabulary, the more you have to draw from, the more ideas that you have and what you might play with these. I am heavily inspired by Afro-Cuban music, especially on the congas, and the technique that has been added and elevated, cultivated, I should say, through the years from Puerto Rico, from Cuba, from America, from various Latino America and the world, and that the Afro-Cuban music has evolved to. I'm highly inspired by that. So I derive ideas and inspiration from that, and it comes through in my playing. Also, Motown, R&B, funk, gospel. I'm heavily inspired by all of that. And so that comes out through my playing, okay? I would say even more than just classic rock, although I'm heavily inspired by classic rock, soft rock, pop or whatnot. But what I'm often playing and I'm often hearing and what I grew up listening to are the things that often come out more than anything else in my playing. And so you have to decide what is it that you're inspired by, and then find out what is it in that music that makes it feel a certain way, and study that. So transcribing, understanding what the drummer's doing, bass, kick drum, slap, snare, and hear that on the drum side of things, and then now transcribe it over to the congas. And then the more you're learning various rhythms, now you can add that in there. For instance, I can do a sango type feel, sango tumbao funk type pattern, and play it on it. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Now I just added a with the a timba type of deal. With the timba, I mean a sango type feel. So I'm adding these together so it has an Afro-Cuban Latin feel, it has a Motown funk feel, it has a classic rock feel, God, everywhere I go, with a funk gospel, everywhere I go, oh yeah, I'm gonna let it shine. I'm adding all of these elements that come together, and that becomes my personality. So anyways, that was just a little extra tidbit there. Whole bunch of information in here. I'm hoping that it helped. Again, like I've said before, if you like this video, if it's helped in any way, hit the like button, hit subscribe. Hey man, it would be great. Hey, my friend, my brother, my sister, subscribe to the channel. Anyways, so until next time,